Today we would be discussing Apex Oracle Application Express. So very briefly, let me go through the Apex syllabus. So Apex syllabus on a broader view, it's like Apex basics, Apex regions, user interface, templates, themes, creating mobile application, Apex advanced security and performance. And detailed topic I've listed down like workspace, Sql Workshop, application builder, form with report, master detailed form, classic report, interactive grid, charts, menus, tree region, authentication, authorization, public page, template, theme, JavaScript in Apex, dynamic action, validation, computation, page process, branches, custom process, default value, shared library, list of values, application properties, page 0, performance. So we will be covering all this in this session. And it will be more of a practice-oriented session. So I will show you everything on the Apex workspace. So before we commence, let's talk about Apex. What is Apex or Application Express? Application Express, earlier known as HTML-DB, is a rapid application development tool wherein you develop a web application in a declarative way. The main skill set required is SQL, PL/SQL, and some amount of JavaScript and CSS and HTML. So Apex is available on Oracle database by default. It's a free license. It doesn't require a separate license. And all the metadata for the Apex application is stored in the database itself. So let's log into the Apex workspace. So let me open the Oracle has provided a free workspace for everybody, whoever wishes to do development in Apex, and that is apex.oracle.com. So if you log in here, you see Apex 19.1 is now available. It contains the latest version of Apex. And if you click on get started for free, you can request a workspace. So in the request for workspace, if you give your first name, last name, and a valid email address and a workspace name, then you proceed and to create a workspace for you. So in this way, you can create a workspace for you. I already have a workspace, so I will be using that. So I will click on the sign in button. So there the login page will appear. And I have a workspace by my name. So I will sign in with my credentials. So we are logged into the Apex workspace. The main thing to know about the Apex workspace is the Sql Workshop and the App Builder. first let us cover, and this workspace is created by the admin. Once you log into the admin, you cannot log into the admin website from this apex.oracle.com because it's a hosted environment. It's on cloud, so you are not able to access the admin workspace. But usually, when you have Apex installation, you have an Apex workspace, and within the workspace, you create the user. You create a workspace. You assign a workspace to a user. And when you create a workspace, you assign a database schema to the workspace, and that is how it all works. So once the workspace is created, you log into the workspace, and there you have App Builder and Sql Workshop. Let's talk about Sql Workshop. So click here. So Sql Workshop, first of all, if I go to Object Browser, see I have only one table, and the schema is also named in my name, Brother. That is the schema I have created by creating the workspace. So I have only one table. I don't have any other. You can view all this like tables, views, indexes, sequences, type, packages, procedure, function, triggers, database link, materialized view, and synonym. All this you can view and edit here. So here I have a table. So if you want to add a column, modify a column, rename a column, drop a column, rename, copy, drop, truncate, create lookup table, all this is possible. And then if you click on the data, it will show you the data, what is there in the table, indexes, what are the indexes, it will show you the model also, constraint, grants, statistics, UI default, triggers, dependencies, SQL. SQL will give you the SQL to create the table. Here you can see it generated the SQL to create the table. And this is the REST API. So first of all, we will be going to the Sql Command, Sql scripts. We don't have a Sql script, but I will upload a Sql script. I will choose a file. I have a file which contains the HR schema of Oracle database. So HR create table.sql. I will give HR create. I'll upload. Then I will try to run the script. Let's see what happens. Parsing the script. I will run now. Let's see. So all this have been done. Next the rows are inserted. I will show you the script in a minute. So all the insert statements are successful. So it looks like it ran successfully. So now if we go to the object browser, now we have all this table: countries, department, employees, job, job history, location, region. And if we go to employees, we can see the data of employees. Data. This is the data for employees. And let me show you the script that I ran. it's called this create HR tables. It's a script. So basically it create tables like regions, it create indexes, then primary key, countries, locations, departments, jobs, employees, job history, then there is a view, then it populates the table with insert statements. So all this is run by SQL workshop, and our schema is now ready to work on. So here we have used object SQL scripts, and now come to the SQL command. In the SQL command, you can run any SQL command. Select star from employees. Select star from employees. So you can see all the employee data it is showing. So you can run any SQL command here. You can create, alter, drop tables, and whatever you can do in SQL Plus, you can do it here in this SQL commands. So that's pretty much about SQL Workshop. So now we will move on to the next tool, which is Application Builder. And if you see, when you log into Application Workspace, you will see Application Express version. So this is the 19.1 version. This is the latest and greatest version of Apex available as of today. Then we come to Application Builder. Application Builder is where we create our applications. So now that we have the tables in the schemas, we can go ahead and create an application. So Workshop, Workspace and SQL Workshop, these two I have covered. Workspace, SQL Workshop. Now Workshop, Workspace and SQL Workshop, these two I have covered. Workspace, SQL Workshop. Now I'm concentrating on Application Builder. So Application Builder, first let us create an application. So first let's click on the create button. What kind of application you want to create? We will select create a new application. The application name, say demo, appearance, whatever, then a blank home page. User default, user interface defaults, user interface defaults. As of now, we are not checking any of these options. This we will check later. Then we say create application. In the authentication, we have selected Application Express account. So whatever application express account we have, that will be used for authentication. Then we say create application. So this is our application. We have a home page, we have a zero or global page, we have a home page, and we have a login page. So this is how we create an application. So this is application builder in brief, but we will cover application builder more when we cover the individual elements. So next topic is form. Individual elements. So next topic is form. Form is a page. Suppose we want to create a page. Now we can create different types of pages. We can create a report, we can create a form. Let's select form. Now we can create a form, a report with form. We will select form. And the page name is, say, DPT form. Page group we are not selecting. It's a modal, not a modal dialog. It's a normal form. Submit, we will say home page. Submit, cancel, it would go to the home page. Next, DPT form. Local database, and then tables. Now we see all the tables. We will say departments. Next. So all these fields are there. Select department ID. Department ID is the primary key. So we will select that. We will say create. So this is department form. We have department ID, department name, manager ID, location ID. Now if we want to run this form, we click on this button. It will ask for logging in. So I have to use my Application Express account. So I can log in. So this is the form. So department ID. We have to choose a default value. So we have to choose a sequence, and sequence name is let me open another window. Go to Sql Workshop. And this, if we go to Sql Workshop object browser, if I go to sequences, so I have departments, let's go to SQL. So this I will copy, and then here I will paste. this sequence. This is the sequence that it will be used for default value of department ID. So now save this. Now run this form. Okay, now department name, say I give demo. Manager ID, location ID, I will leave blank. Now I'll create demo. It says row created. So now if we log into SQL, if we go to tables, then departments, and data, we should be able to see our demo department. There you go. Department ID is 280 and demo. This is the row that we created to the form. Okay, so this kind of form is a standalone form. So this page is a standalone page, and it is not very useful in the sense you cannot query the records or select the records from so the way enter query, execute query works in Oracle Apex. In forms, we used to have enter query where in the form you press F7, it allows you to input some value and then execute query. F8, it allows you to execute query. But in Oracle Apex, the way to do that is we create a page. We'll create a new page. This should be a form, but it should be report with a form. Let it be interactive report. It can be interactive read, or it can be a classic report. Let it be interactive report. Report page name, we say departments summary. Form page name, department details. So next. So tabular view, it should be departments. Click next. Primary key is the department ID and create. So this is the report. Now if we run this, we are getting all the departments. Now if we want to edit a department, we can click here. It will tell us edit a department. So you can make the changes and apply changes. Department name, suppose I am changing to administration to administrations, and apply changes. Okay, now it changed to administration. You can create a new record here. Give department name, manager ID, location ID, and click on the create button. It will create a new record. So this is how enter query, execute query works in Oracle Apex. So we have a report, and then we have a form, detailed form associated with the report. So you can, from the report, you can go to the form and make changes. So that's pretty much about form and form with report. Form and form with report. One more thing we'll have to do in this form, in this department form, in this department form is to populate the, and when you open a page, in the below you will see which page you can edit page 4 means this is page number 4. So if you click here edit page 4, it will take you to page number 4, and there in the department ID I will give a default value, default, we'll choose a sequence, we give a sequence name, department safe. So that is how it works. So I have talked about a basic form and a report with a basic report with a form. Next we will talk about master detail form, but let's take a 2 minutes break. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Hello, I'm back. So we will move on to master detail form, but before we move on to master detail form, let's explore what are the components of a page. So first of all, this department details, this is region, this is a region, this type is of form. You can have this many regions. You can have a breadcrumb, calendar, chart, classic report, column toggle report, data upload, column mapping, form, help desk, interactive view, interactive report, list view, map chart, dynamic, PL/SQL dynamic content, reflow report, region report, region display selector, static content, tree, URL, show, legacy, and import unsupported. Don't go for it, show, legacy, unsupported unless necessary, because this will be depreciated in future and is no longer is supported, but it will be depreciated in the future release. So this is about the region. Then we have items. Department ID is hidden. So we have checkbox, color picker, date picker, display image, display only, file browser, hidden, list manager, number field, password, percent graph, pop-up LOB, radio group, rich text editor, select list, shuttle, switch, text field with autocomplete, text area. So these are the things, these are the type of item you can create. Then value protected, yes or no. Then layout sequence is 10. If you see this sequence is 10, this sequence is 20, then this sequence is 30, then see this sequence is 40. If I change the sequence, say I change manager, if you want to bring manager ID to before department ID, you can just do this way, drag manager ID and put it here, or if you do that, then this will become 20 and this will become 30. So it will automatically adjust this. I'm putting it back here. Then there is a source tab. In the source tab, it says which column in the department in the table, in the departments table, which column maps to this field. So it's the department ID, is data type is number, query only no, primary key for department ID is yes, because this is the primary key. And And then we have the default where you give the default value. And in our case, we have given the default value as a sequence, reference as a sequence. So it will pick the next value from the sequence and populate the default value. Then in security, you have authorization scheme. If you have defined authorization scheme, you can select it here. It will come in the administrative in the drop down. But here we have not selected anything, so no authorization scheme has been selected. Session state protection checksum required. There is also unrestricted, restricted may be set from the browser. So we have selected the default, which is checksum required. Store value encrypted in session state, no. Restricted characters, all characters can be saved. So there is no restricted characters. You can restrict some characters also if you want. So that's pretty much. And value protected, I'm making it to no, and I'm saving this. Then these are the items, and we already know what are the item types. So these are the item types. All these are the item types. You can create items of this type. Similarly, for manager ID and location ID, these are number fields. Manager ID is also number field. Department name is text field. Then about the region buttons, we have cancel button. Region is department details. Position is close. So position, if you see, there are so many positions. By default, it has selected the close position. Appearance is a text, hot, yes or no. If you say like save button, I will say hot yes, and create button is hot yes. Cancel is hot no. Delete is hot no. So if I run this form, I will change. So this create button, you see, this one is hot, and cancel, if you see, this is not hot. So that is the difference in appearance. There is no dynamic action defined on this form as yet, so we'll come to dynamic action later. Process from department. This is form automatic row processing. Automatic row processing means automatically whatever data you input in the screen will be saved to the database. So that is automatic data processing. So that is processing. There are some settings like target type, prevent lost updates, lock row, return primary key after insert. Another important thing is this server side condition. You can give a condition when this process would get executed. We have not given any server side condition, but you can say like when you say click on the save button, this should get executed. But here we have not given any condition. So on page submit, every time this process will run. Now we can save a message. We can say department saved. Department saved. We can give this message, and once you save the department, this message should come. So if we department summary, if we go here, run this page. Now let's select purchasing. If I select, if I change the manager to 203 and apply changes, the department saved. This message is now appearing here. So this is how the process message is coming. So these are about processing. And then branches. Branches is go to page 3. Page 3 is our report page. So after processing, we are telling go to report page. So here in the target, you can select any page in the application. So you can select any page. In our case, we have selected department summary report page. So from this page, you should go to the report page. Okay. So there are few tabs here like rendering. Rendering will tell you what are the items in the page, and on the right hand side you can see the properties. So that's pretty much about a page, a basic form page. Now let's go to the report page. Department summary. This is a report page. Region is report 1 and its type is interactive report. As I said, this can be of various types. The region can be of various types. Here we are having an interactive report. And then we are giving the source, and the table name is departments. So it will pull the record from the department. The source can be a SQL query also. We can write a SQL query or a PL SQL function body which return a SQL query. So these are the sources for interactive report. Okay. And we have only one button in this page, that is a create button. It's a hot button and its position is right of interactive report. Right of interactive report, that is the button position. And another important thing of a button is what is the behavior, that is when you click the button what will happen. In this case it is redirect to page in this application, and the page you select here which page you want to select. So we are selecting page 4. This is a create button, and in the report if you see the columns, these are the columns, and if you go to the attribute you will see there is a link which link to a custom target. Link to a custom target. and target is page 4. So from the report page, we are going to the page 4. And here, if you see, what we are doing is P4 department ID, that is page 4 department ID is populated with hash department ID hash. So these are the columns in the report. So we are passing the department ID of the report to the form page. So that is how the form page is able to display the particular department. So this is very important. This is how we pass a parameter from one form to the other form. Here we have a report. From the report we are calling the form page, the department details page, and we are passing the department ID as a parameter to the department page. Now there are a couple of settings. First of all, here if you come, you can page as copy. If you want to copy this page to some other page, you can copy. So if you click on page on, okay, there are unsaved records. Page as copy. So copy page in this application. You can also copy. So this is the new page number. This is the new page name. And if you select next, it will copy this page to the new page. So this is one very handy feature. If you want to copy a page to a new page and make more modification, then you can do so. And these are some of the links that you can go. You can go to the share component, page component, and other places. If you want to delete a page, you can use this option to delete the page. And this is where you can see what page number. You can click on this button to change the page number, to increase the page number. So this is now page 4. You can decrease it again to come back to page 3. So the next topic is a master detail form. We will create a master detail form. So let's come here, detail form. So let's come here. First of all, in our data model, we have these employees and the department table. This employees table is the detail table of departments, because here you have the department ID, and department ID 90 is a primary key of department table, and this is a foreign key in the employees table. So we can create a master detail form based on these two tables. So let's say create a page, and now we will select master detail. You have this option stacked, side by side, or drill down. These three options we have. So let's start stacked first. Page number 6, page name is master detail. Next, Next. Master region title is departments. Tabular view is departments. Primary key is department ID. Next. Detail region. Employees. Table is employees. ID, employee ID. Master detail foreign key is department ID. This is where you specify which is the join key. The join key is the department ID, so we have selected that. Now we can click on create. So our master detail page is created where we have departments and employees. Departments, select department ID, department name, department manager ID, location ID from departments. And employees, select all these columns from employees. And in this master detail, we have the departments region as the master region. Okay, now a couple of things we have to do. First, we populate the primary key. This department ID, we will have to populate the primary key, default, sequence, the sequence name, yeah, this one. Similarly, employee, columns, employee ID, we have to populate the sequence, and the sequence name is, if you go to sequences here, employee sequence, employees SQ, employees SQ, employees SQ. And if you see the department ID in this field, master column is department ID. This department ID, master column is department ID of the master region. So we are all set. So now let's run this page. So these are the departments and this is the. So the way it creates is, it creates an interactive grid. This is an interactive grid, and the second one is also an interactive grid. So in the interactive grid, you have actions where you can select the columns that you want to display. You can filter based on department name or other criteria. You can filter. Then data you can sort, aggregate, refresh, flashback, all these things you can do. Format, control break, highlight, you can highlight based on certain conditions. Selection. So you can do all this in the selection. Then report, you can save the report for future use. When you click save on, you can save it as private or as an alternative or primary alternative. So you can do all this. So now you see administration, it has only one employee. Now let's go to marketing. Automatically the employees are changing. So marketing has 2 employees. Purchasing, Purchasing has 6 employees. So you can change the employee here and click on the save button. The employee will be saved. So go to purchasing once again. Saved, employee saved. Now you can add rows, you can add a new employee. Say I am purchasing, I am adding a new employee. So I just added an employee. Save this. So employee saved. If we go to the purchasing department now, see my employee is saved. So this is how a master detail form will work. You can also create a new department here by adding a row. Master detail. Master detail. Say 200. Location ID 1700. So save. So here we have master detail. We just created this department. It doesn't have any employees, but you can add row and add employees under this department. So this is how a master detail form is created, and this is how it works. So master detail we have covered. Next cover classic report. So when you go back to here, next cover classic report. So when you go back to here, revision, we do a create page, then we do a report, and in the report there are so many of them, so we will select classic report. Page name will give employee classic report. Next, we select a table, select employees, and create. So now you see This is employee classic report is the page name, and in the report, let's change this title to employee, and the type is classic report. It's based on the table employees. Include row ID no. So this submitted. Now if we run this report, this is a classic report. The difference between a classic report and an interactive report is interactive for the user. The user can do certain actions, interactive report and interactive grid. The user can do some action like he can sort, he can format, he can hide the columns, you can change the display. All these actions are possible in interactive report and interactive grid, but in a classic report, these features are not present. This one is done. Then let's create an interactive report. This one is done. Then let's create an interactive report. Create a page, report, interactive report. Interactive report. Next. You have to select the table which is employees, and then we will create. So this is an interactive report. Well, the page name is incorrect. I am should be employee. Okay, so this is an interactive report based on employees table. So if we run this page, this is the action that I was talking about. In an interactive report, the user has the ability to do all kind of stuff, like he can sort, he can aggregate, he can compute, he can filter, he can select the columns which he wants to display and display in which order. Suppose you don't want to display employee ID, so you do that and save changes. So employee ID is gone. Now in the report, you save this report as default report setting, primary apply. So next time anyone opens the report, he will see this view. Employee ID won't see. So this is how you can change the. You can create an employee. You can create a interactive report. Now I will like to show you something. Here, this department ID, manager ID, these are not significant, right? This doesn't. Instead, we will show the department name and the manager name, first name, last name. So how to do that? So these are the columns. Let's go to the classic report. Classic report. You can do that if you write a SQL query instead of selecting from a table. If you write a SQL query, you can do that. So let's change this to a SQL query, and it is already given. So in the manager ID, we will write like first name, select first name, concatenate hyphen last name from employee where manager ID. If we change this, and then instead of manager ID, we will change the column name as manager. Manager. Once employees is to this as manager. So now this is manager. Okay, now let's manager. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, it is coming as null. Let's see. SQL query. Okay. So here you see these are the manager first name, last name. So instead of manager ID, we are now showing the manager. So this is how you can change the department ID also to show the department name. That makes it looks good. The next thing we will learn is interactive treat. So let's make a report. Let's create a page. Report. Interactive treat. Interactive grid. Next. We select the employees table and we create that. So this is an interactive grid. Now in an interactive grid, if you go to attribute page, edit is not enabled. So if I run this page now, you cannot edit it, right? But these options are available like interactive report, but you cannot edit this page. Now how to enable edit? So you go to attribute and you enable edit. Update row, add row, delete. Now you save this. This is the difference between interactive report and a interactive grid. In interactive grid, you can save the data. You can insert new data. You can update the data. You can delete the data. So now if I run this, we have employees. So suppose I want to delete this employee that I created. So I click here, I delete row. Now if I save, that row is deleted. Similarly, you can add row and things like that. You can update a row, you can add a row. So that's all is possible in interactive grid. Okay. So interactive report, interactive grid. Now let's talk about chart. We can create a chart. How to create a chart? So we go to create page. Then we select chart. Suppose we want to create a bar chart. There are so many options. You can create different types of chart. As you can see, we are selecting bar chart. And we give this name employee chart. Employee chart. Next. Next. Table is employees. Page item to submit is okay. Vertical label column is say first name and this is salary. Value column is salary. Create. So let's run this page. So here you go. These are the employees' first name and these are the salaries. So you can create a chart very easily in Oracle Apps. Well, that's about chart. We'll take a break from here and take a half an hour break and come back after that. Thank you. Bye. Okay, so we have discussed till the 10th item, workspace, Sql Workshop, application builder, form with report, master detail form, classic report, interactive grid, and charts. Today we're going to discuss menu, So first, let's start with menus. So let me log in to my workspace. Okay. Now let's go to the application builder. This is the application that we have created. Now we have so many forms, right? Now these forms, when we run the application, if I run the application like this, so I give my user ID. So as you can see in the left hand side, this is where the menus appear. You can also have the menu on top. It depends upon what you prefer. But as of now, you can see this is our home page. So this page is blank and there is no menu. So you cannot navigate to any of the pages. So what we will do is we will add a menu and see how to navigate to the different pages of the application. So first for that we have to go to the shared components, and shared components there is a navigation menu, desktop navigation menu. Here only home is there. So we have to create an entry, but before that I need to find out the item. So let me log in here also. So these are all our pages. So let's create an entry. There is no parent item is under home. Under home, we want to create an entry, say departments, departments, and page would be department summary. So that's it. So we have created an entry under home called departments, and we are navigating to the department summary page. So create entry list. So we have created a menu. Now let's run this application one more time. So now you can see departments is appearing. And if you click on departments, the department summary page is appearing. From there, you can go to the department details page. You can go to the department details page and modify the record. So that is departments. Let's add some more. Let's add master detail also to this menu. So go to the shared components, navigation menu, desktop navigation menu, and then create an entry. This also will be under home. We call this master detail. Master detail. Page would be master detail. Create empty list. So now let's run the application. So now we have master detail also. So if we click on master detail, our master detail form is appearing here. So this is how you create menus in Apex. Also you can create menus in the navigation bar list. I will show you. Say let's create from scratch, sorry, here, navigation bar, list of navigation bar. Here you can create an entry, no parent. We create an empty departments. Departments and page in this application, we give the department summary and create an entry list. Now if we run the application, you see there is a department that is appearing here. If you click on there, it will go to the department summary page. And you can also shift it here. Before this, you can shift this department before this by go to the shared components, navigation bar list, navigation bar. By changing the sequence, we can change the sequence to say 1. If we change the sequence to say 1, what happens? Line changes. Let's run this application. So it has come to the left. So this way we can build a menu on top also, as well as side navigation menu, as we have seen here. So this is about menus. So this is how you create menus. Next is tree region. Next is tree region. Tree region is basically for records which are hierarchical. By hierarchical, what I mean is if I go to the Sql Workshop object browser, in the employees table, we have a manager ID and we have employee ID. These are hierarchical relationships because the manager ID is also an employee ID. So there is a hierarchical tree-like structure. So we can implement a tree. So let's go to our application and create a page. We create a tree page, employees, next tabular view, we will choose our employee table. We choose our employees table. Parent ID is the manager ID. ID is employee ID, parent ID is manager ID, start with employee ID, value is null. Start with manager ID where value is null. So we are not giving any where condition. You can also give a link. We are not giving any link. We are just keeping it as nothing. Next, create. So this is the page that got created. Now let's run this page. So this is, you can see, employee ID, this. So here you can see these are employee ID. So 100 is the top employee ID. It doesn't have a manager. 101 is the manager of 100. 108 is a his manager is 101, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113. His manager is 108. So this is how an employee page is created. Now let's see. Okay, in this query, title, let's change it to first name. First name. Value also, let's change it to first name. So that's it. Then we will save this record. And then when we run it, so now you see Stephen is the top boss. He doesn't have a manager. Nina is working under Stephen. Under Nina we have Nancy, Jennifer, Susan, Herman, Shelley. Under Nancy we have Daniel, John, Ismail, Jose, and Lewis. Under Shelley we have William. So this is how you create a tree view. So that is what is tree structure or tree region. So tree region is done. Now let's talk about authentication and authorization in Apex. Now let's talk about authentication and authorization in Apex. In this Apex application, if you go to edit application properties, if you go to security, and then if you go to authentication, you see the authentication schema is application express authentication. This is a default authentication schema that comes with Apex, and this means that it will be authenticated by the Apex user. I have an Apex user, so I am logging into my application with that user ID and the password. So that is Apex application express authentication. But you can build your own authentication. So how to do that? Go to the shared components. Authentication schemes. You can create an authentication scheme based on a pre-configured scheme from gallery. You can give authentication in custom, we will say custom, create authentication scheme. Now if you see custom, it doesn't have a, but you can write a PL/SQL code. Say, return to. Suppose we always return true in this custom authentication. So let's apply this changes. Oh, this cannot be. Can I only write true? No, I have to write PL/SQL extension. So, or what you can do is instead of that you can write a function and you can associate the function for the procedure with here you can pre-authentication procedure name. You can write the procedure and that will be your authentication procedure. So you can write your authentication procedure and that procedure you can mention it here and that authentication procedure will be applied to your custom or current custom authentication scheme and that you can use for your application express authentication. But anyway, now we have application express authentication and we will make it the current scheme. Okay, so this is the current scheme. So that is about authentication. And authorization is, you can create an authorization scheme in the share component. You can create multiple authorization schemes. And once you create an authorization scheme, in the page component, you can assign the authorization scheme. Suppose in the departments summary page, here you see authorization scheme. Now you don't have any custom authorization scheme, but you can assign a custom authorization scheme, and depending upon the authorization scheme, you will be allowed to view this summary page. If you are not authorized, you cannot view this summary page. So authentication is basically for login. So in Apex, there is a default authentication which is the application express authentication, which use application user ID password to authenticate you to log into the system. And that you can create custom authentication by creating your own method. Suppose you have a users table where you are storing username password. You can check the username password provided at the time of login with the username password stored in this table, and based on that you can allow access or restrict access. So that is custom authentication. And for an application, you can make current whatever authentication scheme you want. So that is one thing about authentication. And authorization is you create an authorization scheme, say for if you have a role in your application. So for a particular role, you want to allow access to a certain page. So you create an authorization scheme which will return true or false depending upon your role. And that authorization scheme you can attach here under security in the page component, and that will allow the page to be visible to a particular group of users. So that is authorization. So it is authorization. Next, coming to a related topic. Which is public page. Public page is if you go to the here you see a page require authentication under security. If you say page is public, then this page when you run, it will not require. Suppose I log off, I sign out, I have signed out. But now if I go to the department summary page, this page is public. So if I now run this, this will become available without logging in. But if I try to access a default detail page, then will ask me authentication, because the detail page is not a public page. Okay. So that is about public page. Templates and themes, these are also part of shared. Templates and themes, these are also part of shared components. So here you see themes and templates. So if you click on themes, we have Universal 42 theme, which has come as part of this version of Apex. We are using that. And suppose you want to make, if you go to templates, you will see all these templates. There are different types of templates like breadcrumb, button, label, page. So these are the templates for that theme. Now if you want to modify a page template, you can do that. What you have to do is, here you can see the references. How many references are there in the page? Those how many references are there in the application, that is also shown. Now let's say let's say interactive report, this one, if we want to modify, then copy this new template IR custom, IR custom. So it's copied now. Now if we see, so it is IR custom. If you go here, you can modify some features. You can modify the CSS and some features you can modify here. And then in your report, when you go to your report, we have a interactive report, right? We have an interactive report. This one, employee interactive report. Here, if we see the page template, now it's theme default. You can change it to that is a page. If you go to the interactive report, template is interactive report. You can select here and you will see IR custom here. So you can change the interactive report template to your custom template. And you can this way you can use templates. You can also create your own theme and apply that theme to the application. So that is about themes and templates. Next is JavaScript script in Apex and dynamic action. We'll come to dynamic action first, and there we'll see how to incorporate JavaScript script in Apex and dynamic action. We'll come to dynamic action first, and there we'll see how to incorporate JavaScript. So we have department details. Here let's talk about something about the buttons. See the save button. If you see the save button, the behavior is submit page. So it submits page. Similarly, we can create another button, create a custom button. Say name of the button is click me, click me. Click me. And when you define the behavior of the button, we want to define by dynamic action. Okay. So this button, when you click, is defined by dynamic action. So in the dynamic action, we'll create a dynamic action. We give it a name, click, then click, then button we have to say click me. So on click me button, this dynamic action should execute, and true action, let's say JavaScript code. In the code I am click. Okay. now asking for login. Okay, let's go to the detail page. So here the click me button is there. So once I clicked it, see I am clicked. So this is how you write JavaScript code in the Apex application. So in the dynamic action, if you see dynamic action event, these are all the events like on change, on click, double tap, get focus, key down, key press, key release, lose focus, mouse button press, mouse button release, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse move, page upload, page unload, pan, press, resize. So for all these events, you can create dynamic actions and you can choose your selection type like item, button, regions, columns, jQuery, selector, JavaScript, expression. All this you can choose as your selection type. And if you then the next option will come depending upon what you select here. So that is about when the showing or hiding a region based on that is true, the true will have that is also see actually close see disable meet page as we say style that is not required. So all these actions you can do when in the dynamic action you can take all these action uh, as a true action. Then in the false also you can create a false action and you can choose any of this. So here we don't need a false action, so we will delete this. So that is pretty much about JavaScript in Apex and dynamic action. Hello, I am back. So the next topic is validation. So in Apex, you can apply your custom validation. As for example, in the department details, uh, suppose I want to make manager ID mandatory. So how to do that? So we will go to processing, validating. We can create validation. So validation mandatory check. We give it a name mandatory check. Then validation is based on editable region requirement. PL SQL function body returning Boolean. and we will do the check for say location ID. Before location ID is not null. So we will write begin if column before location ID is null, then return false, else return true. And if and so once you write the code, you click this button to validate. So it's giving some error because the spelling is wrong. Then let's see else. Now it's validation successful, so you can click the OK. And then you have to write the error message. You can write location cannot be null. Location cannot be null. Okay. So now let's run this page. Suppose I give a department name of say test manager ID maybe 102 and location I will leave as blank. I will try to create the record. Error processing validation. Sql function, returning boolean, location if before location it is null, then we can false it. Keep as null, and then I'll try to create. So it will say error processing validation. So that is how you can write validation, and then next is computation. You can also write computation, processing, validation, computation. Suppose you want to calculate the location ID, so you can just say create computation. So you can computation, you can do it by SQL query, returns, SQL expression, PL SQL expression, PL SQL function body. So you can write a PL SQL function body to do a computation. So this way you can add computation to the Apex page also. So that's about validation and computation. Now let's talk about page process. Page process is talk about page process. Page process is when you are creating a form, a process is created for your form, and this process is known as automatic row processing (DML). So automatic row processing (DML), this is actually will do the insert, update, delete for your form automatically. This is an automatic way of doing insert, update, delete. But if you want to avoid that, you can create your own process. So you click here, you create a process, you give it a name, and whatever PL/SQL code you want to write, you can write it here. So you can create your own process, and when you create your process, you have to tell at which point you want to run the process. It's like before header, after header, before region, after region, before footer, after submit, processing, Ajax callback. So you have to specify in which point you want to run your process. And that's how you can define your own process to run. You can run any PL/SQL code to run in your process, and you can define the process. You can create the process and attach it to an action point, like at what level, at what point you want your process to get executed. That about processes. Branches is when you log out, when you navigate out of this form, you have to specify a branch for the form. So here we have branches go to page 3. So this is after processing. This action point is after processing. So after processing, we are telling that to branch out to page 3, which is the summary page. You can define the page or URL, and you can define the page where you want to navigate to. You can also set the item with a value, like if you want to pass a parameter, you can do so. And you can also clear the cache and reset pagination. So all this you can do in branching from the Apex page to the original master page from where you want to branch out. So that is about branches. Custom processes we have already talked. Default value, we have talked about default value, like whenever custom processes we have already talked. Default value, we have talked about default value, like whenever in a form, like in this form we have for the department ID, we have default value. We have created it as a sequence, but these are all the options available for default value. You can have a function body, PL/SQL expression, SQL query returning colon delimited list, SQL query item, static, and sequence. So we have chosen sequence and give it the departments underscore SEQ, which is the sequence for the department ID. So that is how for each item you can define the default value. The default value means if the value is not specified by the user, then this default value will be taken while doing an insert. So that's about default value. Shared components. Shared components, we have already gone through the shared components, but there are many more options in the shared component. Like in the application process, you can create your own application process. You can also upload static files, static workspace file. You can upload any file from your desktop to your to the workspace. To choose files, you can browse your computer, and suppose any image you want to upload in the workspace, you can do so. So that is about static app workspace file. Themes and templates we have already covered. Navigation menu we have covered. List is another. For list item, you can choose list. Application authentication or authorization schema we have discussed. Report queries and report layouts, they are for BI publisher integration with Apex. So these are the main components of the shared component, and shared components can be shared between applications, so they are known as shared components. So that's about shared components. There is list of values. Okay. There is list of values. Okay. So list of values can be created in two ways. One is in the shared component, you can create a list of value. Say, yeah, in the shared component, create a list of value. Suppose I create a list of value from scratch. Name, LOV, location, static. So let's make it dynamic. So let's go to the locations table. Let's select street name. Street name as display, and location ID. Location ID as return type from locations. Locations. Okay. Create a list of value. Street address. Street address. Okay. So LOB location is created. Now if I go to our page, department details, in the location ID, I can make it list of values. I can make it a pop-up list of values or a select list. Let's make it a pop-up list of values. Then list of values, shared component, and list of values LOB location. So I can save this. So location ID. Similarly, I want to create a list for manager also. So let's make it a pop-up LOB. List of values says SQL query. I'm doing it inline. I'm not taking it from the shared component. Select first name, that is display, and return is employee ID, that is the return value from employees. Okay. Okay. Now if I run the page, so Here, if you see manager ID is now a list of values. We going to choose the manager. Who is the manager? Suppose I choose David is a manager. And location. These are the street address. I choose the location. Department name I give test. And now if I create error processing validation, some error with the validation, so I remove the validation. For manager ID, I select David. Location ID, I select this. Okay, so that is created. It's test with manager ID 105 and 2300 location. So this is how you can create a list of values in Oracle application. Now Oracle application properties. If you come here, if you go to the application, here you can see edit application properties. This is a very useful feature where you can do a lot of global application level property changes. Most of it is default, but in the user interface, if you go, you can change your logo. Currently it is demo. You can put an image also in the logo. Then you have this theme user interface. You can change your theme. You can change the home URL, login URL. You can change. Then security. This is application users, application express authentication. You can change it to custom. So these are the few things that you can do in the application properties of the application. So next, let's talk about page 0. Whenever you create an Oracle application, a page 0 is created for you. This is the next. Let's talk about page 0. Whenever you create an Oracle application, a page 0 is created for you. This is the global page. Now, in the global page, there is nothing here, but you can suppose you want to create some, you want to display some text. Create region, name it global region, and then in the region create a page item, P0 new, and make it a display only, and give it a default value, default, give it static, hello, reflex. Now if I do this, this will appear in all the pages of the application. So if I run any page, so I run the summary, I run this page. See, hello Apex, the global, it will appear in every page. If I go to the detail page, here also it is appearing. So that is the function of the global page in Oracle Apex. Every Oracle Application Express will have a global page, and you can put your items in the global page and view them in all the other pages. That is about page 0. And next is export import. So once you build your Oracle application, that is about page 0. And next is export import. So once you build your Oracle application, you may be required to move that application from dev to production, from dev to UAT to production. The way it is done is very simple. Go to the application express application, and here you see export import utility. So if you say export and then click next, it will tell you this is the demo application that you want to export. You click on the export. It will ask you where to save the file. So I will save the Oracle Apex. It's a .sql file. So once you are done with the export, then you go to a new workspace. You go to a new workspace, and there you can import your application. Let's choose the file that we have exported. This one. Open. Next. Next. Auto assign new application ID, install application. So it is installing the application. We are doing it on the same workspace, but you will be ideally doing it on the same different workspace. Now run the application, so it will run. So this is how we export. So if you go to application builder, so this demo, this one is created by the import of the export file. So we can delete one of this. So that's pretty much, I've covered all the chapters about Oracle Apex, and that's pretty much it. Thank you. Bye.